You scroll, you worry, you waste time. But the clock is always ticking. Memento Mori, remember, you'll die. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say. You don't have forever." What if today was your last chance to speak kindly, to act bravely, to live fully? Don't delay. Death isn't your enemy. It's your reminder to start living now. We're going to think about death a lot in this video, but let me assure you, this isn't a depressing video. I want to convince you that thinking about death can be one of the most invigorating things you can possibly do. So stick around and let's get started. This whole idea started for me when I was in college. I was lucky enough to take a class with a philosophy professor who really emphasized the importance of thinking about our own mortality. And at the end of the course, he gave us an assignment to write our own philosophy paper about something we learned in the course. And my paper was titled "The Art of Thinking About Death." Here's what I wrote. One of the central themes in classical philosophy is the idea that we should often think about death. The Greeks had a word for it, memento mori, which literally translates to "remember you will die." The Stoics believed that we should think about death often because it helps us put our lives in perspective. Seneca said, "While you're alive, practice death." Epictetus said, "Reflect regularly on death, which is common to all men. Consider how short a time you've lived, how small a part of eternity." Okay, so why does thinking about death help us? Well, first, it gives us perspective. When we think about how little time we actually have left to do things, it helps us stop wasting time doing things that don't matter. Second, it helps us prioritize what matters most. When we realize that we're going to die, it helps us focus on the people and things that are most important to us. Third, it helps us be more grateful for what we have. When we think about how precious and fragile life is, it helps us appreciate the good things in our lives even more. And finally, it helps us be braver. When we realize that nothing in life is certain, it helps us take risks and pursue our goals with more vigor. So how can we start thinking about death in a healthy way? Well, there are a few things we can do. First, we can meditate on our own mortality. This doesn't mean that we have to sit around and dwell on our own death, but we can take some time each day to reflect on the fact that our time is limited. Second, we can practice gratitude. When we focus on the positive things in our lives, we'll be less worried about death. Third, we can live in accordance with our values. When we live a life that we can be proud of, we won't have any regrets when we die. And finally, we can accept that death is a natural part of life. When we understand that death is inevitable, we won't be so afraid of it. I think the best way to sum up this philosophy is with a quote from the great poet and playwright John Webster. He wrote, "For life is a glass made by the hand of time, whose sands fall always through the narrow hourglass neck to dust, to dust." So the art of thinking about death is not about being afraid of death or being obsessed with death. It's about using our awareness of our own mortality to make the most of the time we have. It's about making sure we live a life we can be proud of, so that when our time comes, we can die without regrets. So I challenge you to take a few minutes each day to think about your own mortality. Ask yourself, how would I like to be remembered? What do I want to accomplish in life? And am I living in accordance with my values? If you do this, I promise you, you'll live a more meaningful and fulfilling life. As always, thanks for watching.